Hey guys, FilthyRobot here, bringing you another guides, tips, and tricks video. This time we are talking about great merchants. We're going to go through the list of all the great merchants, take a look at what they do, and talk about how powerful or not powerful I think they are. So let's get started with that. Starting with Adam Smith, the best for first, I guess. Alright, this is probably the best merchant in the game, bar none, that I can think of right now. +1 economic policy slot in any government. It's super good. Economic policy slots are the second best type of card available in a government, and this gives you +1 of them just for having a merchant. If you see this guy, buy him. If he costs you 5,000 gold, buy him. If you need to run commerce projects to get this guy first, get him. Run those projects. He's super valuable. He's going to let you do things with science and culture in particular, and to some degree gold, that you cannot do as other civilizations, other civs that didn't get him. So just grab him if you can. He's super, super good. All right. Moving on. Classical era great merchant. I don't even know. Coleus? Who knows? Grants 1 free copy of a luxury resource in this tile to your capital city and gain 100 faith. This is it's a fairly early era merchant, so it should be fairly cheap, but it's also not very strong as a whole, this bonus. +1 free copy of a luxury. Okay. Yeah, I'm not even sure what that means entirely. I'm curious now, because the way this, normally when you get a luxury, you get 4 copies. So if this is giving us 4 copies, it's a little bit better. But it does say to your capital city. I wonder if that means the luxury is given to your capital, in which case you get 4 amenities distributed, or if this is just the amenity is given to your capital and you only get 1 copy and that's it. Either way, it's not massively strong. +1 amenity isn't a huge deal, and if this is really only +1/4 of an amenity, it's even less of a big deal. And 100 faith is very, very small amount of faith. It's an early merchant, but it's a very, very weak merchant. I think almost nothing of this bonus. Este, a lot in there. Yeah, okay. 2 perfume, uniquely manufactured luxury resource that provides 6 amenities. Okay. This is a little bit better. Again, it is, depending on how this bonus works, it may or may not actually be all that much better. But 2 copies means you can trade it, so you're probably getting 2 amenities out of this, and this is a 6 amenity one. So you're gonna get probably once you trade it out, something like 10 total happiness across your empire, which is fairly useful as a whole. It's okay. Again, not one of the better ones, but not a bad one either, especially as the game goes on longer. It's an info era merchant, so it will be longer by the time you get this option. All right, let's take a look. Giovanni. Instantly build a bank in the market in the city. The bank gets 2 great work slots, which can hold anything. I find this to be particularly exceptional on Congo, or if you're going some sort of culture victory, tourism style victory. Other than that, it's just convenient. Sometimes I do not have time to build markets or banks in my city because I'm doing a lot of other things. Getting a free market and a free bank is quite useful, but it's not that big of a deal empire-wide. Mostly the great work slots are the important bit, and that's only going to be useful in some very small circumstances. This might actually be a fairly decent merchant because the times that you're going to want to take him, he may not be all that popular with other players, so you may get him cheaper, which sounds pretty awesome to me. Decent merchant, not great, but decent. Helena. 2 cosmetics, and but it's earlier, it's atomic era as opposed to info era, so you will get 1 of these for your empire, which will give you 4 amenities, and you get to trade 1 of them off for another 4 amenities of another type of luxury. Decent. These type of things are pretty small impact, but can add up if you get a lot of them, or if you're just very short on amenities, of course. So it's decent, but not great. Irene of Athens. Free copy of a luxury resource on this tile to your capital city. Increase trade route capacity by 1. This is quite a bit better, I think, than this bonus here. If I had to choose between 100 faith or a trade route, I mean, that's not even remotely close in terms of value. The trade route is so much more valuable than that. So the free copy of the luxury resource on this tile, okay, it really, again, we don't know. Is this only for your capital, or is this for your capital and 3 other cities? I don't know, but the +1 trade route capacity would probably make this worth picking just by itself in the medieval era anyways. So decent. That's what I'd put that at. Jacob Fugger. All right, 2 gold, 200 gold, and 2 envoys. I like this merchant. I'm not sure if I'm overrating it internally or not, but mentally I tend to like this. It tends to show up. It's a Renaissance era one. It tends to show up after I've met all the city-states, but before I have enough envoys to control all the city-states, which means that what this does for me is almost always, if I think about the priority of city-states, something like science, industrial, and gold, with maybe later caring a little bit about military city-states. In general, I'm going to want those envoys so I can really quickly, in the Renaissance era, when I'm getting finishing up my industrial stuff and getting my industrial buildings and getting the science stuff up, I'm going to want those bonuses. And those bonuses are going to be per city bonuses. The sooner I can get those per city-state bonuses, the better. Getting 2 envoys right off the bat is kind of nice for that. Jump starts that a little bit. I like this merchant. I may be overrating him, but I tend to find him to be useful in the games I've played with him. Gems Setji. Yeah, okay. Activated effect. 1 charge. Campus districts provide +10 tourism. This is going to be useful in wide empires going tourism and useless for everybody else. Okay, done. It's kind of late to info era. Not that helpful from, again, but I suppose if you are going tourism, everybody else is going to pass on this guy. It could be useful to you. But in general, this is going to be a fairly annoying one to give him the opportunity to take, because you're going to have to pass and lose points for passing. So, unpleasant. John Jacob Astor. 500 gold and 2 envoys. A little bit later, 1 era later, industrial instead of Renaissance. Same general thought process though. You're probably still working on filling out all your envoys at that stage. You're filling out all the levels of the. When I say that, there's basically 3 tiers of influence you can have with a city-state. You can have level 1, level 2, and level 3, and that doesn't even count the suzerain bonuses. Level 3 is the maximum amount of bonus you're going to get from that city besides suzerain bonuses though, which means like if you have level 3 with a science city-state, it's going to give you 2 science in your capital and then 2 science in every district, every city, or excuse me, 4 science in every city that has a campus. So getting that bonus is very, very important for an empire when you're competing with other players, because you need to get maximum science. So getting those envoys is going to be useful. I think both of these double envoy merchants are quite useful. John Rockefeller. Grant 1 oil strategic resource, and your trade routes gain +2 gold for each strategic resource improved by the destination city. This is a better. This is both better and worse. I play a modded version of the game, the No Quitters mod, which is involved has added changes for multiplayer balance, and this is both better and worse in that mod than in the base game. So let's talk about the base game. What does it do for the base game? Grants you 1 oil. Turns out oil is really, really powerful because tanks are really, really powerful. If you do not have the ability to produce tanks and your opponent does, and your opponent is a human player, he will roll over you just shouting beep beep and laughing, and that will be the end of your existence in this game. So having oil is super important. So important, in fact, that in the No Quitters mod, that has already been patched to make it so that oil is now a strategic resource that you are granted on balance, so your capital will have oil so you can fight back. What this means is this is a really great merchant to have if you don't have oil, but since you're guaranteed oil, it's a lot less good. The second part of this, you get +2 gold for each strategic resource improved by this destination city. It's challenging to make this useful. It can be quite useful if you have a city that has, for example, if you have a city that has a harbor and an encampment in that city, so it gets that additional 2 production off of internal trade routes above and beyond what most other cities will have, which would be the commerce hub plus the industrial zone plus the base. So that means that city's probably giving 5 hammers, and then it also happens to have 2 or 3 strategic resources, so it might be 5 hammers and 6 gold, and then whatever food you get internally, suddenly that starts to be a very appealing merchant. But this is going to be something you can't just snap pick it. It's not going to be like you see Adam Smith, you absolutely grab it 100%. You're going to have to really think about, do you have a way to utilize this? Because for at least in at least in the modded version of the game, the oil part is useless. So that's what you got. Think about it that way. All right, moving on. Toys, the merchant that gives you +1 toys. This is just 1 amenity. It's okay. We've talked about these already. This is industrial era, and it's a little bit weaker. I don't generally find that this one is quite as good, because generally in the industrial era still I have plenty of amenities, and I'm not worried about it quite yet. Levi Strauss for, this is jeans. This is atomic era. Double merchants. Again, this is the same type of thing. This is just 1 more amenity that you get 2 copies, thankfully, so you can trade it. So it is quite a bit better than this one. I'm not sure why industrial to, I mean, I guess it's just so much earlier, but it would be nice to have 2 copies of toys on this merchant so I could actually trade it and make it a little bit more useful. Again, it's okay. You're going to be able to assess your own amenities to see if this is impactful in some way or not. Marco Polo grants a free trader unit in this city and increases the trade route capacity by 1. Foreign trade routes to the city provide +2 gold to both cities. The second part of that is pretty much meaningless. You don't really care one way or the other. Perhaps in versus the AI will prioritize sending gold to that city a little bit more, but I doubt even that is very impactful. +1 free trader is very nice. This is medieval era. It's fairly early still. I would probably take it if it was offered to me, especially if I had decent merchant production where I'd be getting more later, because it's early enough that trade route is going to be very, very helpful. All right, your nearest city annexes this tile into its borders. It has 3 charges, and you gain 60 gold. This feels pretty bad. Think about what you're going to be doing with this. This is going to be picking up amenities or picking up strategic resources. It's available in the classic era, so you don't have most of the strategic era, resources available. So what you're banking on then having strategic resources later that are important, that aren't in your borders right now, that you won't be expanding cities towards, but will be close enough within 3 tiles of one of your cities so you can actually get that. It feels pretty weak to me as a whole. Or you're thinking that it will pick you up an amenity that you can see already that's 3 or 4 tiles, or 4 or 5 or 6 tiles out of a city, or a couple that are 4, 5 or 6 tiles out of a city. Why the hell are there amenities near your cities that are 4, 5 or 6 tiles away from your city? Why don't you just settle a city next to it and get the amenity in your borders? Or settle another city and get that in the amenity in your borders that way, since you want to settle basically as many cities as you have room for. I think this merchant is terrible. I would pass this merchant every time I saw it in all likelihood. All right, moving on. Mary Catherine Goddard, +1 level of diplomatic visibility for all civilizations. This is a troll merchant. This is, if you guys remember my original Civ 5 tier list, I had 6 tiers as opposed to 5, and that last tier, tier 6, were bonuses that actively made the Civ worse than if they had no bonuses. This is a merchant who does that. This is a merchant who makes your bonuses less good than they were before you had this merchant. Because now you will be spammed every single fucking turn. You will be spammed with large gray blocks of text that block out the movement behind that at the beginning of your turn. And if your brain is anything like my brain, you will read the first like 2 of those, and then you will stop processing those entirely. So it might tell you all you have to do is read this message to win the game. But if it tells me that in the 5th turn that I had this merchant available, I stop reading those on turn like 2. Like turn 5, I'm never going to see that again. So I hate this merchant. This merchant never gets taken. This merchant is a running joke right now in the No Critters groups in terms of the merchants offered to you. All right, moving on. Masaru here. Industrial zone districts provide 10 tourism, same as the great person who did the +10 tourism for campuses. Essentially, this is a very specific set of victory conditions this will be helpful in, and that is when you're going tourism, and that's it. The rest of the time, you just want no part of this. It's fairly late too, so this is probably going to be 80 tourism on average. If you're doing 8 cities, 80 tourism, is it that much in the info era when you're doing like 500 or more tourism? Probably not, but it's tough to say. I haven't done enough tourism wins to think if that would be impactful or not. It feels weak. It feels late for this amount of tourism, but you might take it anyways, probably because every other player is going to have passed it to you at that stage. Melita Bentz here. +25% tourism towards other civs you have a trade route to. Increase the trade route capacity by 1. It's an atomic era. This is better, but it's still the same type of thing. By the time the atomic era rolls around, you're finally to the point where you're like, man, I guess the trade route right now isn't that important, because we're in the atomic era, and that one more trade route at that point probably isn't all that important. However, a 25% tourism modifier, unlike the +10 flat tourism, this is a 25% tourism modifier. Now, if you send this to a player, the player is going to war you and you're going to lose your trade. Well, it's not like you lose it, but your trade route will be canceled. Against AI, this is probably brilliant. This is probably amazing for tourism versus AI, because you're going to get yet another tourism modifier that the AI doesn't know how to say no to. So you could probably actually do that. Players, it's not going to be so good. And also the trade route +1 as a whole, 1 extra trade route really isn't that impactful at this stage in the game. All right, 200 gold and 1 envoy available in the medieval. 1 envoy is significantly worse than 2 envoys, and the 200 gold does not make up for the fact that you only get 1 envoy. I think it is much worse than the 2 envoy merchants, but still okay, just not anywhere near as good. You tend to want to send, I was gonna say you want to send envoys in groups of 2, but you really don't. You want to send them in kind of 3s, right? It's 1, then it's 3, then it's 6. So I guess envoys are valuable, but I'm not sure that this is a lot less valuable. Envoys are a lot more valuable than the 200 gold. I'd much rather this gain 2 envoys and don't have 200 gold, and then this would be a better merchant. It's just a worse version of the other envoy merchants. All right, this one's interesting. I like this one a lot. Raja here. This is a Renaissance era merchant. Gain 1 envoy. Your trade routes to your own cities gain 0.5 gold per each specialty district at the destination. Turns out this is basically +2 gold for every internal trade route you spend pretty much almost all game long, since you will often have 3 to 4 districts in your cities, and gaining an envoy is just kind of like extra little extra cherry on top of this, basically, for me. I run almost all internal trade routes every single game, so this bonus gives me a lot of gold per turn. It's basically like having the +2 gold per trade route card in without having to have that card in. So I like this merchant. If I get the option, it's very, very powerful. The earlier you get it, the better, of course. Sarah Breedlove. 25% tourism towards other cities you have a trade route to. Interesting. I didn't even know there were 2 of these. I just assumed they were the same merchant, but apparently we have 2 of these. Same rationale applies. It's going to be good versus AI, less good versus other players, and you don't actually get an extra trade route off this one, so this one is slightly worse, but I think it probably arrives earlier. I don't remember if the other one was Atomic Era. No, they're both Atomic Era. No, this is Modern Era. Yeah, so it arrives earlier. Getting that tourism bonus earlier is going to be good. So this is probably slightly better, actually, because the +1 trade route is not the impactful part of it. It's the tourism modifier. So, all right, and finally, increase trade route capacity by 1 foreign trade routes to the city. Provide +2 go to both cities, but it's a classical era great merchant. This one is awesome because it's so early. Getting an extra trade route is extremely powerful. This probably at this stage in the game, well, you're not going to get, I was going to say it doubles it because you only have that 1 trade route, but realistically, you're not getting merchants without commerce hubs. So probably have a couple commerce hubs up, but this is probably still, you know, by the time you get this merchant, you probably only have 5 commerce hubs up. So this is a pretty significant increase in the number of trade routes you have available to you. Pretty awesome merchant. If you get him, I would recommend grabbing him if you can. All right, guys, hopefully this is helpful in terms of thinking through which great people you would take given the choice. If you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and come check me out on Twitch. And check out my millions of other Civilization 6 guide videos and content being released on the channel. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you guys soon.